Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? Wave, do something like this. Thumbs up. Beautiful. All right. So everybody, yes, turn those cameras on. No white outlines of images of your head. Of course, if some of you are driving, then yes, only want to see an outline image of your head. So, but hopefully you're not. How many people got in this class? A lot. So as a comment. Okay. So like starting on time, so I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. So of course, welcome everybody to Foundations of Research Methods. The little intro video, but my name is Dr. Greg Stewart, and I think there's 3 sections of this course. I am one of them, and we'll get into it, but as far as like what I want to achieve in this course, but it's obviously foundational. Is raise your hand if this is like your first semester, not your just a couple first semester. So like our second semester, raise your hand for the second, third. Okay. Well, normally like if you take like this, I figured like this class would be like in the first semester or 2, but obviously that's not a requirement, right? All right. So for those who go ahead, Jennifer. So and those of you who have started your dissertation and you're kind of beyond this class, is that any of you? Like if you started, anybody start their dissertation? Nobody? Okay, all right, good. I just want to make sure. All right. So I didn't want this like, yeah, I'm halfway through my dissertation. This is just kind of a formality. So, all right, that's good. Okay. Let me have a word of prayer and we will dive in, okay? All right, Lord God, thank you for today. We love you and adore you and just want to pray and commit this semester into your hands. Give us much grace. You are amazing. In Christ's name, amen. Okay. So let me see here. Okay. So first of all, are there any like questions before? Because I'm gonna dive right into the PowerPoint as far as the introduction. I want to make sure if you guys have any questions or are we just ready to roll? I did go through and all of the quizzes, I opened it up where you guys can have 2 tries. Okay. 2 tries to the quizzes. So if you don't do good on one, then give it another shot, but I'm not gonna do more than 2 tries. So also, I do always like to tease students and say, if your goal is to get an A in this course, or if you like just are like my identity rests in getting an A in the course, then you automatically get a B. I'm just kidding. I can't do that, right? But I would love to. Oh, I would love to, right? So obviously at this level, you guys already have the intellect for the PhD level. It's as well, as we walk through the dissertation, it's not about your intellect, okay? You smart people, okay? So it is about other things. So in one of my values I have that I actually wrote that, it used to say that in one of my values that open doors happen through formal education, right? I actually wrote that value of mine. I have a mission statement and 10 values. And I wrote that value after I got my PhD because that is what I lived. Okay. I changed it to the goal of formal education is wisdom, not knowledge. Okay. You need the knowledge to understand the material in order to apply it. But there's almost like this upper echelon of just intensity to go from the B to the A. So I just want to relax that and say, my goal here is to do the best I can, but not be so focused on getting an A that my identity and value in Jesus is going to be rocked if I don't. That's, I guess, the goal. Okay. So anyways, but I did open up the quizzes because the other piece is, guys, that I'm one of those professors, you're going to love this. I'm one of those professors that look, at this level, if you guys don't want to get your doctorate, then don't get it, right? At this level, get the work in. Now, so if you're late on an assignment, I will simply I'm going to grade it after the assignment's due. If you're late on, I'll give you a 0, but big deal, turn it in later. Okay. I don't care. The goal is like, especially this class is not about, so we give scheduled dates for you guys to march through the course and have a due date. We all need due dates, right? But if you miss a deadline, I will give you a 0, but relax. Okay. Just get it back in. Because obviously when I'm assuming that when you guys submit like your title for your dissertation, I'll probably tell you to rewrite it. Many of you. Okay. Now I shouldn't have to know, but some of you just want to get it in. You're right. My dissertation title is trauma. Okay. Little too broad. So I'm going to have you rewrite it and I'll give you a 0, right? But don't wig out with a 0. The goal is to get all the work in by the time the semester wraps up. So lots of grace there. Now that could be dangerous, but you'll see my theory that I also have another theory in doing that. So it sounds wonderful, but there's another reason why I do that. Okay. All right. So let's dive in because a lot of part of the themes of what I want to talk about are in the PowerPoint. Okay. All right. So raise your hand if you cannot see that. Okay, good. Okay. So foundations of research methods. The other piece before I forget, I am not going to go through the textbook. You guys have the textbook and you have the quizzes. The quizzes are there to get you the knowledge that you need in the textbook. The best way I can help you in this class is not to have you become a master of all the research methods. There are only a couple, 2, 3, 4 choices max of research methods you're going to choose for your dissertation. Okay. You're just guaranteed. Okay. So it's good at a scholarly level to read the textbook and ace the quizzes. That's the knowledge that you need to be a scholar in the field. The best way I can help you in the wisdom side is not go through all of those different research methods. Okay. And that'll make sense. So I'm not going to every class for sure go through a PowerPoint. I'm just going to give a general overview of research methods today. And then we're going to then kind of break it down from there. Okay. So in my video, if you haven't watched it yet, so I'm a 2008 graduate from Regent. I was in the PhD in counselor education and supervision program. There were 22 of us in the cohort only because there was a cohort model. And there were, I don't know, 75 or 100 applicants. And me and one other gal finished in 3 years. All right. So dissertation all. So I smoked through it. And I did my dissertation. It was a quantitative study on the relationship of emotional intelligence with job satisfaction and organizational commitment, right? Because I have a consulting side. So I did a quantitative study, but finished it in 1 semester. Okay. So I say that it's, again, leading up to the possibility of the undergirding of you guys finishing your dissertation is going to be related not to, again, your intellect. It's not even going to be related to the method you choose. It's going to be related to other things. Okay. All right. So the research enterprise, right? So our modern society relies on research. So obviously it's to uncover truth. Okay. So what's the whole point of uncovering truth? It's to understand our human experience better. Okay. That's the point. Because even with the Bible and 66 books of the inerrant scriptures, we still don't know a lot. And I think the Lord, that's part of our management of the world when he put us in the garden, said, manage the world. I think searching for uncovering that truth and that wisdom and knowledge and understanding was part of our experience of Imago Dei, right? So he wasn't just going to give it all to us. It's he wanted to us kind of to be like him in the sense of uncovering and discovering truth. So there is a process, but the whole end goal of uncovering truth is to understand the human experience better, right? So, or you can even like, obviously in our field anyway, but there's other fields, but to understand that field better, okay? All right, so it's a type of investigation, empirical, right? Observable, scientific in nature to contribute to the public knowledge, okay? The goal is truth. Okay, now, so to contribute to public knowledge, somebody raise your hand. What do you have to do? What are some components of your dissertation that must be true in order for it to qualify to actually advance public knowledge? Chantal? I can't hear you. Your mic's off.
Having like reliable sources to gather our data. So like for example, like participants.
Yes. Think more macro, but yes, you're right. So reliable data participant. I'm saying like the end game. What must be true about your dissertation in order to contribute to overall knowledge? All right. Any idea? Go ahead, Chantal. Any idea?
Well, I have a thought question, Mark.
All right, I'll get to you, Gregory, in a second. So Chantal, go ahead and answer it. So what?
I was just thinking like maybe that it has to prove a point. It has to uncover new dimensions or prove something that doesn't exist already in that domain.
Yes. That's exactly. I'll expand on that, but that's exactly the reason. Gregory, sweet name, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So the problem that I have with your presupposition is that truth has to be defined a priori to the discussion you're having. And you're lacking, the empiricism that's involved with the subject is not necessarily truth. Empiricism does not equal truth. Empiricism equals a modernity's view of truth. And we have to ask a question a priori, what constitutes truth? And I would say that the biblical view of truth far exceeds the magnitude of what empiricism can produce. So we have to ask that question a priori. So if we have a Christian worldview, we believe in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. We believe that man is created in the image of God, fallen and redeemed. If we're not in consistency with that worldview, though we have empirical data, our empirical data is inherently in error. And I can show you many brilliantly, very well done empirical research that is completely false.
Right. I would say this, that the methodology used based upon statistical analysis has to be truth in the sense of there's correlation. What they draw from that data could be wacky, right? But even statistically, there has to be correlation in order to I guess maybe not. I agree with you in the sense of it won't be absolute truth because it's only a 95% or greater confidence level, but there has to be that confidence level of where it is that data is true. The conclusions drawn from the data is something different, right?
Well, but I'd even submit that the subject area of dealing with, I'm being a little bit overly philosophical here, but I think, this is the only time we're probably going to discuss this, right? Because afterwards, we're running down the track, right?
Actually, believe it or not, Gregory, this is probably going to be the main. Actually, no, this is going to be the main deal. No, that's actually the main deal of the course.
Okay.
Because of this very thing, right?
But modernity defines when you talk about the way the world looks at truth, it looks at it as an empirical data where where we're subject to a modernal construction of truth, where we have an objective and subjective reality. That is not a biblical construct.
Well, okay, so let me just say this. Okay,
Go ahead.
how about this?
Go ahead.
I go along the lines of all truth is God's truth.
Right.
If any of my conclusions or anything I come up with contradicts that,
Right.
I'm goofy somewhere. How about that?
Right.
But our
But
goal
yeah,
is,
I'm good to go. All
Yeah.
all scriptures
Yes.
inspired by God for
so
correction.
in that sense, absolutely, because
Right.
all truth is God's truth. That I'm trying to uncover truth from God that's not explicitly laid out in the scriptures.
If I could, and then I'll chat out here. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
continue to push the matter, but I think we have to understand there's an inherent limitation to what the scientific methodology inherently can bring us. So, you're
Yeah.
dealing with Oppenheimer going, my gosh, I'm the source of death, when he's
Yeah.
pursuing this truth about how to deal with the molecular structure to be able to deal with creating the atomic weapon. So
Right.
we're subject to this truth. It's a truth, but it's a limited truth. It's not the grand truth. It's limited to what we can do on an empirical basis. And it does give us revelation to, not revelation, but it gives us understanding to the natural order, but it's inherently limited. And that's, if we use big T and small t for truth, you won't hear this debate out of me anymore.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, we're on the same page. So
Yeah.
like great example on Oppenheimer in the sense that they found truth, scientific truth. Again, application kind of sucked, but what they did discover too is the application of the human experience. Right.
Right. But outside of their empirical paradigm.
Yes. So that's actually the horror of it.
Right.
Out of the genius of the scientific truth they undiscovered, what they did also discover is that the human heart maligns anything that's good. Right.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Okay. So the goal
I'll
is,
back off now.
no, it's fine. The goal is, and that's why the research process never ever ends, because we'll never have all truth. Right. And further truth gives greater insight to previous truths uncovered. Right. So the point is that this is one little piece, and that's the key of what back to Chantel said, is in order for your dissertation to count, you have to basically do something nobody's ever done before. That's it. Right. So you have to do something that it was a piece of truth that was not yet released. So practically speaking, what do people do? It's nobody has ever done this. Okay. Now, what's this? You have your general topic, right? And then how do people get specific? The general topic applied to this situation with these people, right? For this reason or in this way. There's your specificity. So I'm going to do a research on trauma as it relates to depression among people between the ages of 14 and 14 and a half among the inner city of Chicago, Latina base. I mean, right? So you could get that specific, but that's the point. It has to be specific enough, but your specificity only has to be as specific as where it's not done before. You could go as broad as, I'm going to do trauma and depression, and nobody's ever done that before, which is not true, but nobody's ever done that before. And that's all the more specific you need to get. Your specificity has to get down to the details where it's never been done before, right? That's what it is. But the goal is to advance knowledge one little blip at a time. Okay. That's our goal. All right. So practical for dissertation, guys, you must pick a topic that drives you to completion. Okay. Now that topic, my suggestion is it's gonna like also come from like say mission and vision, but it is something that you have experienced that you want to prove or know that is just driving you crazy because you have a theory of what nobody else is seeing. And the only way for you to propose this theory about the human existence or what to do about it or what have you is to make a correlation, right? But you got to be passionate about it. Or it's, I believe that we can create something in the future, so it can be future driven. Again, it's got to be passionate that it drives you. But the method that you choose, because of your passion, right? We are humans. Because I'm so passionate to prove blank or to show blank, I automatically am biased. That's not the issue, not a bad thing at all, because that's why the whole point of bringing in methods keep our integrity intact. Methods allow us to set our bias aside and go through a very strategic process to ensure that whatever the results are, that either validate our opinion or hypothesis or whatever, or invalidate it, the method is what keeps us in check. The method is what keeps us honest. But you've got to have a passionate drive topic, right? But don't worry about your passion. You passion that puppy to death, but you do a method that keeps you honest. That's the point of research methods, right? All right. But also, a good dissertation is a blank one. Anybody want to just mouth the word, fill in the blank?
Finished.
A finished one, right? So there's your balance. So this is not your life work, okay? Because you can do, like, after you graduate, you can continue on with it. In fact, a lot of you would, but this is not your life work. It is the opening step to it. So you got to be passionate enough, and then method keeps you honest, but then you got to have a process that can be completed, right? So that's why a lot of people, like, in the different things, there's quantitative, which is actually the most scientific. Then there's qualitative, which is the most experiential, right? But then there's mixed method, which I think is the coolest. It's a mixture of quantitative and qualitative, right? But then a lot of people, that's why they choose program development, because we are in ministry. I'm going to develop a program for this population group in this issue, right? And nobody's ever done that before, right? And that's why a lot of you'll find a lot of students in this program will do the program development. It's because that's what our end game is in counseling psychology, especially in ministry, is to change people's lives, right? So program development might be a serious one for you to consider. Okay, but we'll get into those. There'll be plenty of guiding. All right. Now, the question I asked, who has some answers? Now, this is not just Regent students. This is all PhD students. Stop at ABD status, all but dissertation. Okay. So I already told you what it meant. All right. So who wants to tell me why? If they were to finish all the coursework, right? All the coursework, but they did not finish the dissertation. Why? 50% of all PhD students. Who wants to take a stab at it?
This is my thought. They just don't have the passion and the endurance to finish.
Okay. 50% of students don't have the passion? Endurance? What does that mean? What do you mean by endurance? They're just wiped out, they're tired?
No matter what the obstacle is, they just gonna overcome and finish.
Yeah, but overcome what? And I have it, you'll find out. But that's the thing, they didn't have the endurance because, again, it's like you have like 7 years to complete the puppy. I mean, good night, right? So it's not the time. You have plenty of time to do it. So at some point, like, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and knock the sucker out. So, and that's why I started with the word endurance, because you've got plenty of time. Like, life ebbs and flows, cool, right? But you're definitely going where I want you to. It's just I'm a word Nazi. I don't like certain words like endurance. Right, but you're on the right track. Okay.
People might usually call it a question of resilience, but if I could jump in and say, I think there's an issue of you haven't been trained to produce knowledge. You've been trained to consume knowledge. And that transition, that gatekeeping transition, really kicks the butte out of people at times, because the pressure on you when you're trying to deal with, hey, I'm actually, and it's not that the knowledge isn't there, right? But I'm actually discovering something. And I am the litmus test of my own capacity with my dissertation chair. It's a very different experience than consuming knowledge, which we've been doing for, whatever, 20 years. We've been knowledge consumers. And so all of a sudden it's this complete change of paradigm, and we're just not used to it. We don't have the resilience to continue on, and you don't understand how kind of fragile your psyche is when you're trying to do that.
Okay.
That's my thought.
All right. I like a sliver of that. So hopefully I would say that by the time you get to your dissertation, it shifts from consumer to producer. I mean, we have failed if we have not taught you how to be a producer of it.
But how
Right.
many times are you asked to produce a paper? I mean, and if you're going to like Boston College or Harvard and you're doing a PhD and you're getting a stipend, then you're anticipated to do some papers, you participate along the way. We're just, it's kind of like, especially when you're online, I'm not really in, okay, enough said, but you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. David, you raise your hand.
Yes, they picked a topic in which the research collection overwhelmed them and were not able to get the data in order to complete it.
Okay. Still have 7 years to complete it. So switch topics.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can switch to, but sometimes people get locked into their thinking and it's like, no, this is what I want to do.
Right. Yeah.
And they don't reframe their thinking and pick a new topic, because
Right.
it's that wasted time and investment.
Yes. And let me say really quick, guys, every reason you give is a reason within the 50%. For sure. Right. There are these. I'm saying, like, but man, 50%. I'm talking about the number. So that reason absolutely is true, David. Greg, absolutely true. These reasons are all true, but it's, my goodness, like, I think again, and by the way, this is simply observable, and I have no research to back it up. So, right. So, but I believe this is 100% true. Okay.
Or they found it that just because I'm noticing something, because something new got put on the syllabus quiz. There's a 5th question, making sure that we knew that this was not a licensure course. And so, in that vein, it also makes me think that people thought, why am I doing this? This just isn't worth the time.
Not a licensure course. Interesting. Oh, maybe for other people doesn't program. I have no idea what that even means. All right.
Well, the PhD in counseling and
I know
psychological studies.
it's not a licensure program.
Right. And so if people might find out, oh, well, it's not for my licensure, therefore, why am I doing this?
Oh, the whole program, not just specifically this class, because the whole program is not for licensure. But I got you.
Right.
Okay. Lori?
And this is my theory also, that it's because it's open-ended and most people are used to being given a direction, and they don't have the ability to narrow down and stay focused and keep going, even if you still kind of end up open-ended with your question unanswered. You still write about that and you say the question didn't get answered, but I think that stops people. They can't, they want to be told where to go with something.
Yes. There's one piece of it, major piece of it. Yes. Good job. Gabriana? That's it, right?
Yeah, you did. I was gonna say part of it too could be like jumping off of Lori, because that's exactly like what I was thinking, but also just in regards to like going through the literature, pulling from it, making sense of it, putting things into like your own words, like using that knowledge and breaking it down to where it makes sense, and that when you present it, others are able to make sense of it too. Because I feel like I mean, obviously I've never written a dissertation, but like in a previous research class that I took for my graduate course, like he really hounded on us on like our verbiage and what we were like, even our methodology, like making sure that everything made sense and that, yeah, like it all tied together.
Yeah,
Like there was
that's
no
definitely a
flaws.
skill. That's definitely a skill that's hard, right? It's and what she said is the undergirding why people don't push through it, right? Good. Tammy?
I think, sir, that one of the reasons why people don't finish is fear and rejection. They're fearful that whatever they submit, and after they submit it, and it gets rejected or told to kind of, we've been told that by Dr. Guilford, it's going to be a few times. It's not just going to be that one and done. You're going to have to go through the process of narrowing down. And I think that that's one of it. Just getting started is even fearful.
Yep.
Even though I might have a good topic, or I think I got a good topic, but is this PhD level? Is this dissertation level? This is not just a research paper. This is dissertation.
Right. Yes. Good. All right. Couple more all right, Stephen.
I would say that everything everybody said as far as like the solo journey of it is definitely one thing that I've heard lots of people that were ABD. I also think, though, that you're not only doing self-management, but you're also managing relationships. And there are many people that I've talked to that didn't complete because they had a bad relationship with the primary investigator, like whoever their dissertation committee, they had trouble with.
Chair.
Yeah. It could be anything in that area where they didn't understand how to initiate and keep themselves going forward and building those relationships. And if it was like lab work, that it could have been like the same thing can happen like in different kinds of dissertations that are more lab oriented.
Yeah. And obviously if you don't be afraid of switching dissertation chairs, right? But
Right.
if you get to your second dissertation chair and have the same issue, it's probably not your dissertation chair. Right.
Right,
It's like
exactly.
you said, right?
Which is a self-management thing too. Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. All right. One more, Tim.
Everyone. So I just test the chair when students conduct an analysis or when they choose the topic, but many years later, maybe someone already solved their problem. So they cannot create some new things. Maybe they need to abandon their research, or maybe I believe that PhD is a different scope, that we really need to have a strong heart to create something, not just learning something. So I think we need to keep the motivation, keep the spirit to create something, to bring up some legacy to the community, to the world.
Right. Yes. And again, by the time these are legitimate concerns, but by the time you get to your proposal, you will know that the literature, that there's already a gap. So if you get to your proposal defense and then come to find out that it's already been done before, then your committee did a bad job, right? So it's that again, a lot of these that could happen, but I'm gonna go off like what Lori said, as far as guys that all the way through school, right? Which is, part of what Gregory said is we're consumers. Like people laid out, here are the deadlines. So have it in. So part of the reason why I don't care, like complete the work of this course, right? Whenever you want. I mean, I'll still put a 0 in when after the due date to motivate you, but complete it where you want. Because when you get to your dissertation, it is 100% you. You set your own deadlines. And guys, think about this. If you are going to be a scholar in a field, you should be able to be a professor and teach, right? So you should be able to set deadlines for yourself like you would in the syllabus. It is honestly the reason, like 50% of people, because it's resourcefulness and resiliency, right? Resiliency is, look, it's a tough process, but resiliency is about emotional discipline, right? Now, there are always, always, always people who experience life events that rock their world. Many of you, or some of you hopefully, will experience life events that will knock you off and you have to take a break. Okay? But you got to come back to it. It is all about it's all about emotional intelligence. People who don't complete their dissertation, it's because they don't have it inside of themselves to persevere. Keyword that's been said is resilience. They don't have the resilience to knock it out and get it done. And a lot of people, like in the last class, they said, well, it's people don't support you, or like, the dissertation chair thing. Guys, nothing in your environment will keep you from your dissertation. Nothing will keep you. You will keep you from finishing your dissertation, right? So when it is 100%, okay, go. And literally, I've been a dissertation chair. I've been on several dissertation committees, and it's just like, I'm not going to reach out to you. When you're ready and when you want to meet with me, meet with me. Now, even some people said, well, can we meet on a regular basis? Absolutely. Right? But I'm not the one that's going to drive it. Right? If you want to meet on a regular basis, you ask me, can we meet like every 2 weeks? Absolutely. Well, I'm really working through the session. Can we meet weekly absolutely? Or I'll say, I think you're fine now. Let's meet in a month, but it'll be obvious. But you drive everything. This is the final test of Frodo, guys. It's, can you be a scholar? This is what a scholar does, right? Scholars complete major projects. Scholars persevere. So resourcefulness and resiliency. On resourcefulness, some of you will ask me questions that you have your own resourcefulness to find out the answer. Like that whole NIH completion thing, do not ask me where to find it. I will not answer you. I will not. Use each other, right? This is not a professor. You have all the resources you need to complete these tasks, guys. Be resourceful. Please don't, it's recorded. So if I get in trouble for this again, don't ask me dumb questions. There are dumb questions. If a dumb question is, you know how to find the answer. It's not an intellect thing, guys. It's an emotional intelligence thing. You just don't want to put in the work to find the answer. So you're just going to zip off an email to the professor because you want a quick email back. Because I just need to get this done. I'm super busy. Yeah, I'm not. Right? Cheapers. It's just like some students are like, it's fine. Like, I just like, somebody's like, I got so much going on. I'm so, right? Yeah, man, what's it like being so busy? Because I have no clue, right? So resourcefulness and resiliency. Find the answer. Like, there is a link at the end where you guys can go to a plethora of resources to find out how a program development dissertation looks like. Plethora of resources to find out how to lay out a quantitative. There's handbooks out there on how to write a dissertation. Go get it. Resourcefulness. So that's right. I'm doing this class. Like, guys, you're all going to probably get A's because you're going to have 15 tries to do your dissertation title. And if you're happy with a 80 out of 100, I'm cool with that. I'm just saying, just keep working at it. And if you want to meet with me, right? Because here's the other thing. If you want to meet with me to go over your topic, I have 15 minutes in between all of my sessions throughout the day. I always offer to meet with students to talk through your dissertation topic. And that's all I need. Because in 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, I will thank you, Dr. Stewart. You're off in a new direction. But I'm not going to reach out to you. If you want to meet with me to discuss your dissertation topic, I'll meet with you. Okay? But it's going to be, so resourcefulness, I'm recording it now. If you want to meet with me, then do this. Send me an email and say, are you available next week? Yes, reply. Right? Guys, I'm sorry. This is good for you, right? It's send me an email, say, Dr. Stewart, can I meet between, at 10:45, 11:45, 12:45, 1:45 on this day? Give me and tell me your time zone. Right? Because I'm going to do that. This will be the first to do it. If I don't see a time zone, I will not reply. Because I don't know what time zone you're in. Do you guys know what time zone I'm in? Right?
Central.
Central, right, good, right? So tell me what time zone you're giving me the times for. You see how this works? So again, I will meet with any of you. Email me after this class, okay? And then that's the key. It's always about resourcefulness and resiliency. I want to prepare you because that's what it's going to be like. And once you master those two skills, you will complete your dissertation. But if you can't, it's because of one of those two reasons. I mean, more than likely. I mean, all things considered, right? Gregory?
Yeah, you kind of sound to me a little bit like Yoda talking to young Skywalker and going, do or do not do.
Right.
Period. And you have to go into the dark cave to find out what you're really made of.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm not a dark cave. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
But, there's a lot of what am I made out of, that comes up in this process, right?
Absolutely, sir. And guys, it's all good. Walking, guys, when I landed, I flew from Michigan. I'm from Michigan. When I went from Michigan to landed in Virginia Beach to interview for my PhD, I got in my rental car and I bawled. And I said, what am I doing? Guys, I was the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree. I got saved as a kid in junior church. My parents were going to church, which meant I quit going to church. And I did the party hardy teen years. And then suffered the consequences from those years. It took me 9 years. I was a 9-year program for my bachelor's, right? But once I got my bachelor's, then I mastered divinity, master of arts and counseling, PhD, right? So trust me, my background, right? So I'm just saying, all of you have the ability. It's not your background. It's not your environment. It's not your mother-in-law, okay? My mother-in-laws always get picked on, right? Father-in-laws can be jerks too, right? It's not anybody. And honestly, you don't need support from Jack Diddley. You do not need support from anybody. It's you, okay? You and Jesus, okay? Jesus supports you. He should be plenty, okay? All right. So summarizing the course. Most likely methods will be quantitative, like I said, qualitative mixed methods or program development. There's a bunch in the book. That's why I learn them, because you understand, the goal is to understand that the methodology is important to keep you honest, but the methodology, and that's what I'll work with you on, because some of you will say, well, I want to do a quantitative, but after we talk, it's more of a qualitative or vice versa, right? So I'll help you walk through that, but it'll be obvious once you come up with your title that which method will be the most appropriate, right? So you have to think about this. What is your end game? Okay, this is so crucial. Why do you want to do this topic? Don't just think in the relationship between what do you want to change? Like a lot of people come and they want to do a dissertation, and it's like, look, I want to answer this. I want to help people in our church with this topic. Okay, then but so I want to do a dissertation on proving the relationship between marital stress, finances, and parenting. Okay, so what do you want to prove? Well, what's your end game? Well, my end game is I want to help people in our church and our community. Well, then why aren't you just doing a program development? I mean, seriously, do you really have to do a quantitative study to prove that marital stress is caused by finances, parenting? I mean, I'm being facetious, but you see what I'm saying? It's like, why are you doing a quantitative to prove a relationship that's blatantly obvious, right? This one I get every single semester, right? A common one is, why are African Americans, churches, opposed to counseling? Why is there a stigma with counseling? Every single time. So guys, there's a stigma. Okay, now what? So that's the beginning question I'm going to ask. So yes, but now what? And in our classes, I want to hear from every single one of you on your topic, and we'll walk live and in color through this process. Every single one of you, I want to walk through your topic, right? whether it be individually or I want it definitely spoken in class. I want to help you to think through, because it's the best way I can help you think through your concepts. Because it's always the same thing. What's your end game? And then how is your dissertation going to get you to end game? Because the end game really has to do with, I want to change people, help people, fix something, solve something. Okay, then why are you going to prove something that's already kind of common knowledge? Do you really need to prove that there's a stigma? Do you really need to prove that that trauma and depression are related? Really? I mean, yeah, I guess you could among this certain population, but one guy had a really cool dissertation when it came to how the community being organized helps with gun control. Oh my gosh, right? So he had to do research, but he had to do an entire community program around that. But that was his end game. Like the true way to solve, homicidal violence is community involvement. And he wrote a program for that. Now that's a task, right? But that was his end game. He didn't need to do another research study, quantitative research study on the relationship between people who have bad childhoods and gun violence. I mean, Heller, right? So Heller, I don't know if you know some Medea or reference there, right? So you don't need to find the correlation. What's your end game, right? What's your passion? And then what are you trying to make better? So I'm just saying this is probably a lot of you will want to do a program development thing. Okay, so when it comes to quantitative or qualitative, what are you trying to prove? Right? So when you think of, man, there's a lot of debate over this relationship, that this is caused by or correlated to this, right? I guess there's no causation, correlation stuff, but find the connection. If there's a debate over the connection, then yeah, you want to do quantitative or qualitative, more likely quantitative, because that's scientific. Qualitative is more experiential, right? It's the, interviewing and all that, right? So think through. Like I said, is the correlation already common knowledge? What gap are you trying to fill? And that's where it comes to specificity. The gap is something that it hasn't been linked together. So yeah, trauma and depression, but there hasn't been how trauma and depression plays out when it comes to children who have cognitive impasses from childhood trauma among Republicans, or whatever, right? So it's making that connection of the gap. And this is a major gap in the literature. I can't believe nobody has ever tried to correlate these mental health issues with this population in this type of circumstance. There's your gaps right there. Are we tracking, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to fill in the gap. And again, why is the gap so huge? Because sometimes we just do a gap because it's never been done before. Guys, the gap is your passion. The gap has to be. So yeah, you need a gap for specificity to say nobody's ever done this before, but the gap is where your passion lies. It's not just in the topics. The topics are already broad. Tons of people have passion over these topics, whatever they are. It's in the gap is the specificity, okay? So if there's not enough importance to prove a correlation, then go down the roads of program development. Because that's technically that's your end game. It's like, yeah, it's kind of, well, I want to do these. I was thinking about this and kind of bringing these two together. Yeah, but is the gap that much of a mystery, or is it that much unknown or debatable? No, not really. Then because that's your end game. You want to fill the gap with a fix. So the gap is there. Technically, I could advance the body of knowledge in this way, but the gap is not so powerful that I just need a program to fill the gap. Forget the research to fill the gap. You need a program to fill the gap. That's the best way I've ever said it right there. Are we tracking? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So introduction and literature review. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to repeat this 100 times. Okay. But your introduction is about 10 pages. Okay. I'm giving you, right? Your introduction better be about 10 pages, right? Because your introduction is the summary of basically your lit review. Your lit review is almost like you just double clicked on your introduction. It's almost like the introduction is a summary of the entire lit review. right? Now, in other, wait, the lit review is, yes, the whole thing is the lit review, but you have to separate, because in your dissertation, you're going to have an introduction, right? And a literature review, and that's chapter 1. But your introduction has to summarize the literature review, okay? You got to have 2 sections there. So your literature review, yes, technically is your, so chapter 1 is the whole picture. Chapter 1 breaks down into introduction and lit review. Okay. Now your lit review, I'm much more open to be whatever. Because it's your lit review is going to grow and grow and grow. So I would like take your introduction and think through, as you do research, it's going to be divided. Now, in your literature, like in the outline, it's going to be, here's the issue. Okay. Here's the problem. Subheading 2, the ramifications of the problem. Right? Section 3 is what has been done to address the problem. Okay. Section 4, subheading, is what hasn't been addressed or what needs to be addressed. Section 5 is this is what I'm going to do about it. And say it just like that in your heading. DIS, IZ, WHUT, right? This is what I'm gonna do about it. Okay. There's your kind of like your method section. And all you have to do is just introduce the research method and why you chose it. You don't have to get any more than that. Okay. I just gave you the outline. So that's your outline for the literature review. And then you just take that, and then that's your same outline for the introduction, just shorter. Just here's the problem, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's do a deeper dive into each of these. Let's talk about gun violence. Really huge. Let's talk about, as it relates to, the issue, the problem, the severity of the problem. Let's really draw into all that has been done about it. And that's right there is where you discover your gap. Because the next section is, this is where what has not been addressed. But it's that section. So again, you prove the point of here's a topic, right? Want to go after, right? And then severity of the issue, that may not be hard to prove. Here's why it's an issue. You don't have to be exhaustive on, like, keep going and going on why it's an issue. It doesn't matter. The issue where you're going to find your gap is this has to be exhaustive, because that's where you find your gap. What has been done about this problem? And then the next section tells you, well, this is where the gap is. And then the 5th section, this is what I'm going to do. Okay. That's called silver platter. Okay. All right. That's how you write your intro and lit review. But the intro is the lit review, just much shorter, or the lit review is the intro, but much bigger. We tracking? Right. All right. So basically, quantitative, qualitative, need to connect the problem with the population, and then program development gap. What program or aspect program is not available? You can't find this program out there. That's why I'm going to create it. There it is. Okay. All right. So here's the link. I'll upload this PowerPoint. I think you guys have it. Here's the link to all the academic resources of everything you ever need from this program to finish your dissertation. Guys, it's all there. Right? So look through it. Resourcefulness, okay? All right. Research this, when you guys do your dissertation title, please research actual dissertation titles. Do not give me a book. Like, I'm writing a book. It's and I'll ask you guys, like, I'll send you my social media, like I'm trying to write a book. So it'd be great if you guys can connect with me, but I'm not going to ask you to, right? Your grade's not going to be dependent upon it. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. My book is I-Cubed, Information, Interpretation, Intensity, Unlocking the Inner Strength Behind Your Negative Emotions. That's a book title. That is not a dissertation title. Right? Look up dissertation titles. Right? So just when you submit it, make sure it's not a book title. All right. Straight to methods in either dissertation database to ask the library. Because what you want to do is when you think about a topic and what you want to do, start looking at immediately go to methods, because your literature review is just you putting all the information together, but you got to figure out, okay, again, what's my end game? So figure out your method right away, and that's going to guide your lit review. But figure out like, what is my end game? Do I want to do program development or quantitative or qualitative? Because that's going to kind of dictate based upon your end game. And again, we could talk about this at the beginning, like kind of how you're going to form your lit review. Because again, it could be hundreds of pages, guys. It's just, you got to figure out what you're trying to build up to, right? And the severity of the problem, right? The problem, the severity of the problem, what has been done about it. Okay. Well, right there is your method, like what people have done to try and figure this out. Okay. All right. So then 10-minute meetings, just email me, reach out to me and give me some times. Can we meet, tomorrow, 10:45 to, right? Cool. And I'm always like, got to wrap up my session, but I'll meet with you. Just wait for me on Zoom. And we'll meet. Okay. But in this class, right. And we'll take one example. All right. As an example, what we're going to do. Okay. So who wants to suggest or kind of offer, this is what I'm thinking about doing for my dissertation. But again, we're going to hear everybody. All right, John, go ahead. I can't hear you, Mike. Nope. Mike, now it's not, yeah, no, I can't hear you. Your mic's off. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe the Lord doesn't want you to speak, brother. That is so
Maybe
weird.
this one.
There we go.
Ah! All right. I just kept playing around with buttons until something worked. So I was toying around with this idea before even applying to Regent University, but title would be something similar to the efficacy of veteran psychologists in treating veteran patients with PTSD.
Okay. All right. Okay. What about them? Like, what's your end game? What's the issue?
End game would be to ideally establish a VA policy that enables veterans to be, I guess, promoted as psychologists. The main purpose behind it is there's a camaraderie that exists among veterans. And I feel like most veterans that I encounter really appreciate the fact that, I've been there. I have a PTSD diagnosis, and that opens up a lot within the sessions itself. But all other counselors I talk to who deal with veterans have a hard time getting them to open up. Some of them don't say a damn word for an entire year. And I just want to try to do a comparative analysis of the efficacy of that.
Okay. All right. So that sounds absolutely like an awesome quantitative, right? Because your thing is going to be, is there enough research out there? Because if it's quantitative, then we're talking statistics, right? And you need enough data to prove whatever the case is, right? Now, you're always, now again, endgame, it's common knowledge. You're going to find, no matter what, you're going to find enough veterans that would rather have the therapist be a veteran. Okay. That's not the issue. The issue is, can you prove? Because what is efficacy? Efficacy cannot just be related to client bias. Right? Now, what you can prove is that client bias is unavoidable. It is client bias based upon the traumatic experiences is such a huge bias. You can't invalidate it because of the inability to prove because it's not about the capacity of the therapist. It is not. Right? It is about the bias of the veteran, because then you are going to prove that veteran counselors, basically, you're going to want to do therapists, right? Not just psychologists, because there's psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, social workers, right? So mental health workers, right? That you'd have to prove that somehow that this program is different than this program. I mean, it's just going to be a mess. You can't prove the efficacy of their training. It just is literally their title, their experience, that they have a label. And that label, because you could have veterinary, you could have therapists, mental health workers that are vets who, because they're vets, they suck. Right? Because why? What's the biggest thing with therapists, guys? It's called countertransference. So you're absolutely going to have to address countertransference.
Absolutely.
That the therapeutic alliance turns into bias one way or another, and that actually the therapists who are veterans, how are you going to account for bias? You see, like, it's, I mean, seriously, it's, keep going, brother, because that is a phenomenal topic, but this is where the method keeps you honest. It's the method is quantitative. That's not your issue. The issue is, what are the variables that you have to control for? Woo, doggy, right? I get chills thinking about it. You have to control for so many variables to get right down to that. Therapists who are veterans are more effective at therapy with veterans. All right, that's awesome. But man, are there a lot of variables you have to control for. But I love it.
It's going to be a thick bastard, but
yeah, no, but again, I'm saying that, I mean, seriously, I would say, brother, you absolutely want to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm saying while you go down the rabbit hole, just look for the branches you can grab a hold of, right? But you have to, man, like there's like mission stuff, like you have to go down this rabbit hole, but you'll start to see the biases that have to be controlled for, but it's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Okay. All right. So basically like follow you throughout the semester kind of thing and say, okay, how is it turning out? Because that's a perfect one to control for other variables, other biases. That's it. All right. So that's the research method. Okay. All right. We'll do one more. Anybody? Okay. Okay. I got it. Zoania. Right. Okay. I'm going to try another one. Jennifer. See, I got Zoania. I can't get Jennifer, right? Just joking. All right. Zoania, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Zwania. You can go by Z.
Oh,
yeah, it's all good. It's all
no,
good.
girl, this is Z there. You better pronounce it because that sucker ain't silent. Okay.
Sure. I want to work on neurodiversity in parents who are neurodiverse. And
say that again.
Parents who are neurodiverse. So that's the population I want to work with. And I would love to explore trauma in their like their children. What's the impact or the connection between trauma and parenting when it comes to parents who are neurodiverse? So I'm still coming up with what's the actual question, but when it comes to what would I be measuring and all of that, I'm kind of like looking at emotional dysregulation. I'm looking at home chaos. I'm still looking at exactly what's going to be that and how I'm going to be measuring, but I would love to explore those.
Yes. Okay.
That population and kind of like that.
All right. So parents who are neurodiverse and their parenting style among children who've gone through trauma.
Yeah. Basically, what's the outcome in terms of trauma?
Right. Okay. Well, obviously, was it the parents who caused the trauma?
It's the parents' parenting style. That's what I would like to see.
Okay. All right. So right there. So we have two like generally broad topics. So, okay. So the first question is, well, gee, Wally, is there a relationship between parents who are neurodiverse and then, cause trauma on their kids? Does it, right? Of course it does. Right. So the specificity is huge. Right. Now, let's go straight to endgame. Like, what do you want to do? Actually, let's say you take this topic and you graduate. You are Dr. Zwania. Okay, get the name right first, right? Right. So you're a doctor what do you want to do with this information?
So I want to create programs specifically for parents who are neurodiverse. That's kind of like a population I have very close to my heart, and I feel that it's underserved.
Mhm.
We pay a lot of focus on the kid when they're on their like younger years, but these individuals become parents, and then they struggle as adults as well. And I would love to kind of like put together programs that will help them achieve their goals, but also make the parenting experience less hard.
Yes. Okay. All right. So here's great illustration of, so correlation and then all the various factors that would relate to what's correlated and how it impacts the trauma and the impact upon both, right? But I think you can go through whatever variables you would choose to try and show correlation. It's like, that's where it'd be kind of like common knowledge of no duh, no duh, no duh, no duh, no duh. So that's where it becomes your outline for your program development, because unless some of these correlations is again burning, where it's like, there's so much debate. Does it really impact? It's not about does it impact? It does impact. Here's how, all these different facets of how it impacts. So it's not really like not a mystery that it does. Here are the facets of how it impacts, kind of pointing straight to program development, because that's your end game.
Yeah.
Right. So there's not like this burning crazy question of, my goodness, does it correlate? If there's not that burning question, then I would just go with the common knowledge that probably does correlate. So let's just assume that and do a program development to help the issue.
Okay.
All
Wonderful.
right. Again, off the top of my head.
Also, Professor, I
Yep.
also had a question. I've been trying to find dissertations written by past alumni, like PhD students, on our library system. Is there any way I can find them easier? I haven't been able to.
Yeah. So,
get them.
yes, contact the library. Contact somebody from the library. They'll show you how. Because there's a regional library database of all dissertations, right?
Mhm.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. There is. Contact the library how to get there.
Okay.
And it should be like when that link I'm going to send you on all the PhD resources, there's links in there too.
Okay.
Right. And this will give it to you for sure. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right, guys. So that is our journey. If you want to reach out between now and the next time we have class, let me know. I'm more than happy to meet with you. Would love to meet with you. But let's keep walking through, right? Walking through the process. Okay. Do your syllabus quiz. If you haven't done the video intro yet, do that. And if I don't see you, have a Merry Christmas. I'm just joking. I love that joke.
Two questions before you go that.
Oh, yep. Sorry, David. I saw your hand.
Yep. One, what's the best way to get your attention in class to be called on? Is it the raise the hand feature, or are we just blurting out, unmuting, waving our hands in the screen? What's the best way to get your attention?
I would try either raising your hand, because normally I'm pretty good at that. I saw your hand, and I shouldn't have ignored it, but I saw your hand. So raise your hand, or just do this. Just do this.
Okay.
I mean, with your
All right.
cameras on. Yeah. Sorry about that, Dave.
No, that's okay. We want to accommodate your teaching style.
Well, you raised your hand, and then Steven sends me a private chat and says, "Ignore Dave." I mean, I don't know what that's about.
I understand.
I'm kidding.
And sometimes Steven needs that attention, and I'm willing to give it to him. I'm always willing to yield the floor. Two, the second question is, for those of us who have done work already in the qualitative research course, do we build on that pre-existing? Because this is all going towards your dissertation, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any work you've done, listen, this is for this class. Now, for other classes, there shouldn't be similar assignments, but no, you have a qualitative research class. So yeah, the work you're doing there, again, you're starting your dissertation in this class, right? At least that'd be great if you could. I want you to start it. So anything you're building towards it, the more masterful it is, the more work you put into it. So you're putting in, it's not what you better not do is like, right? Is, well, I did this class, I did this work, so I'm just going to submit what I submitted. Then you can do that, and I'll probably never know, but come on, like always keep the work going, right?
You
So-
will know because the paper thing you run it through will say they've already done that before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, thank
That
goodness
you
for
will
that.
know
right?
instantly. Yeah.
That's true. All right. All right.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead,
as long
Dave.
as we're building
Try
on
it.
our previous work.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Dave. Try it. I better
Yeah.
see like, only 20% correlation, right? Just
I think
joking.
it'd be more like 50 if we did the other one because it was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Again, guys, like I said, look, kind of like do whatever you want to do. It's your doctorate. I mean, it's like if I have to worry about academic integrity, it's like I don't even want to talk about it. Right. So it's your doctorate. Do with it what you want. Right. But I trust you. But yeah, you can absolutely submit it. Keep building on it. Okay.
All right. Thank
All
you for clarification.
Blessings,
And
guys.
see, and
Take care.
Stephen jumped in. Happy to yield the
Yeah.
floor.
See, there you go.
He did, and I'll always yield back.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Blessings. Have a good night, guys. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, David.